Okay, I've almost had 50 comments at this point. We've probably had about 50 Discord messages asking for us to check out these season-long props on Underdog. So Underdog just dropped projections, and even if you're not interested in player props, I think it's extremely useful because this is an entire company putting their money where their mouth is, right? Not necessarily me telling you, yeah, I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to have 700 receiving yards this next season. If I come out here and tell you that, what does it really mean when you can't take me up on it? But if a company goes out there and tells you that, if they are really off, if they are extremely wrong, they stand to lose a decent amount of money. So in my mind, these are almost the best projections that you can be looking at in the world. So we're going to dive into this. But before we do, make sure you drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, if you want to check out any of these player props, if you want to get into a draft with me this offseason, you can on Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code FLOCK. You're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $100, available in damn near every state. And with promo code FLOCK, you'll get my 2023 fantasy football rankings and a free trial to flockfantasy.com. So before we get into what y'all are going to hate to hear about Lamar Jackson, let's go over and let's look at James Cook, right? James Cook, full transparency, is a running back that I am drafting right now. Like if we go over and look at the price tag with James Cook, he's going as a mid running back 3 in these Underdog drafts. And I'm kind of fine with that because if you look at the profile for James Cook, this is a running back that in college was a great pass catcher, right? I mean, that was why you were excited about James Cook coming out of Georgia. He goes to an offense that should have a lot of touchdown upside, just given the fact that, I mean, hell, you're in Buffalo. Now, yes, you will have Josh Allen vulturing rushing touchdowns at the goal line. Yes, that is going to be a little bit painful. But nonetheless, when you have so many trips to the red zone, in general, you can be pretty excited about what you're going to have with the overall touchdown opportunity for James Cook. Now, the primary issue that I'm going to be looking at here is the line that you have on Underdog at 600 rushing yards. Now, do I think that James Cook is going to be valuable in fantasy because of his overall rushing volume? No, I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever. I think that the Buffalo Bills consistently are almost dead last with their rush rate over expectation. And if we're going to be going ahead and looking at what you've had over the past few seasons, yes, Devin Singletary was able to get to 600 rushing yards this past year in Buffalo, but James Cook wasn't. And Devin Singletary barely got there as well. Devin Singletary was at 819, but I want to remind you that this is a player that played 16 weeks. This is going to be a big thing that you are looking at when we're evaluating these season-long player props. You need to understand when we look at these as projections, while yes, if all these players stay healthy all 17 weeks, they'll probably hit them. But is that how the NFL works? No, we know this time and time again. A player will go down in training camp and miss the entire season. And that doesn't even need to happen for you to make a profitable bet here with James Cook for fewer than 600 rushing yards. What could happen is James Cook just has a low ankle sprain and James Cook just misses 4 weeks. Or maybe James Cook has turf toe. Maybe James Cook has a shoulder sprain. There are so many different things that could happen that if you just miss 4 weeks, then all of a sudden the lead running back in Buffalo does not hit this past year. If you're going to go back to 2021 as well, now keep in mind James Cook wasn't in Buffalo, so I don't know if it's fair to use this, but Devin Singletary barely got there as well. He's at about 800 rushing yards with 17 weeks. Zach Moss didn't get there. The only running back that we have seen be able to hit 600 rushing yards in Buffalo over the past 3 seasons was Devin Singletary, who played 16 to 17 weeks every year, who never missed a game. So in my mind, it's not great for James Cook, who should be the passing down running back in Buffalo, to Damian Harris most likely being the first and second down guy. And I think that 600 rushing yards would be very, very close to what I would project out for James Cook if he were to stay healthy for about 16 weeks and the running back backfield were to stay the same. But inherently, there is so much more risk with this James Cook player prop whenever there are still sharks out there in the water. You still have Kareem Hunt. You still have Leonard Fournette. You still have Dalvin Cook. You still have Ezekiel Elliott. Adding any one of those running backs to this Buffalo backfield will put you in a position where James Cook and that 600 rushing yard mark could easily be compromised. So there are just so many ways that this could go wrong, where one, Damian Harris could be the first and second down running back. 2, they could sign another RB. 3, James Cook could just miss a couple weeks. And if a Buffalo running back misses a couple weeks, they're not able to hit this mark. So that's why you're going to notice with every single one of these player props, I'm going with the fewer than mark. Now, going over to our next guy, we're going to be looking at Jeff Wilson here. Very similar situation in my mind, in that with Jeff Wilson, there are a lot of things that could go wrong. Here, let's run through them. 1, you could have Devon Achane coming out, being the 3rd round draft pick for the Miami Dolphins this past season. He could take over. He could be the guy. That's one thing that could go wrong. Second thing that could go wrong, maybe Devon Achane's not really the guy. Maybe it's a committee backfield, but it's between Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. That could happen. Maybe Jeff Wilson is the 3rd running back on this depth chart and doesn't get a lot of involvement. What's the third thing that could go wrong here? Oh, the third thing that could go wrong is Jeff Wilson could miss some time. I mean, we've seen this from Jeff Wilson in the past. You go through his NFL career. 2018, he plays 6 games. 2019, he plays 10 games. 2020, he plays 12 games. 2021, he plays 9 games. 2022 was the first season that you've seen Jeff Wilson play 16 games. So he could miss some time. That's 100% a possibility. And going back to what we're talking about with James Cook as well, there's still sharks in the water. You still have Dalvin out there. You still have Hunt out there. You still have Fournette. You still have Ezekiel Elliott. If one of those guys signs to Miami, Jeff Wilson could be the running back 4 on this depth chart. Jeff Wilson may not even make the team. So we're going fewer than 550 rushing yards. Going over to our next guy, we're going to be looking at Sky Moore here. Now, I understand what you're going to say. Well, Mason, come on, man. He's played on the Kansas City Chiefs. The mark's only 550 receiving yards. Who the hell will Patrick Mahomes throw the ball to? It's honestly a good question, right? I mean, if you're looking at Patrick Mahomes last year at the very top of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes had over 5,000 passing yards a year ago. And if we look at who he threw the ball to, I mean, these guys weren't the best. You had Travis Kelce, obviously getting there. Kelce's elite. But then you had Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS both hitting over 550 receiving yards. But the argument that you could make where you come out here and you could say, well, Mason, I mean, come on, who are they going to throw to? They have nobody. They had nobody last year, ladies and gentlemen. If Sky Moore was not able to play over Marquez Valdes-Scantling a year ago, why do we think that Sky Moore is for sure guaranteed to hit that mark now? With Sky Moore, he played all 16 weeks last season, or he played 16 weeks, obviously missed a game. He had 250 receiving yards. You could see development into Kadarius Toney as the wide receiver 1 here. At the same time, there's still that outside chance DeAndre Hopkins is on his way to KC. Every single time we were looking at these player props before the season, you have to think about everything that could go wrong. 1, they decided not to use Sky Moore in the playoffs. What if they decide not to use him this next season? 2, what if Rashee Rice is actually something as a rookie? 3, what if they sign DeAndre Hopkins? 4, what if Mahomes gets injured? 5, what if Sky Moore gets injured? I know I'm a Debbie Downer in this video, but this is how you make profitable bets before the season. You think about what nobody else wants to think about. You think about what could go wrong, and there are so many things in football because it's so random. Now, going over to our next guy. I understand Lamar Jackson is in a spot to probably have a career high in overall passing yards, right? I mean, if you're looking at Lamar Jackson, you get a change in offensive coordinator where, yes, the Baltimore Ravens will most likely throw the ball more. Not only do you get the change in offensive coordinator, but at the same time, all of a sudden, you're in a spot where you have more weapons for Lamar Jackson than he's ever seen. Lamar Jackson's going out there now, and he has Odell Beckham Jr. He has Zay Flowers. Hopefully, he'll have a fully healthy Rashad Bateman, and clearly Mark Andrews is still there. So if we're looking at Lamar Jackson, yeah, he's in a pretty good spot to have a career high in passing yards this next season. Now, Lamar Jackson with 3,500 passing yards could still very easily have a career high and it not hit this mark. This would be much higher than anything we've ever seen before from Lamar Jackson. And I understand what you're going to say. Well, Mason, come on, man. That's not necessarily fair. I mean, with Lamar, I think that he just needs to stay healthy and he'll hit this mark. Well, that's one of the issues with Lamar Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. Lamar Jackson, historically speaking, has not stayed healthy. Simply has not happened. Lamar Jackson, 15 games 2019, 15 games 2020, 12 games 2021, 12 games 2022. Now, of course, a couple of those years, Baltimore Ravens were just so damn good they were resting him before the playoffs. But nonetheless, you do have to be worried, just like we were with James Cook, just like we were with Jeff Wilson, just like we were with Sky Moore, that an injury occurs to Lamar Jackson. At the same time, even if Lamar, for the first time over the past 3 years, was able to stay fully healthy, He plays 17 games. He would still need to average about 205 passing yards per game, which I know seems like an easy mark, but Lamar Jackson has done that twice in his entire NFL career. If we're looking at this, Lamar Jackson has averaged 208 passing yards per game in 2019 when he was the MVP. He barely got here. Barely. 183 in 2020, 240 in 2021, and 186 this past season. So Lamar Jackson, for him to hit this mark, you need a couple things. You need one, Lamar to stay fully healthy for 17 weeks. Two, we need Lamar Jackson to be at the very top of his NFL career in terms of his passing yards on a per game basis. Where in my mind, for both those things to happen, it's definitely a possibility, but is it over 50%? I honestly don't think so. Now, going over to our last guy, Tim Patrick would be a mark that I would be very happy to honestly take the more than 575.5 receiving yards if they did not add in Marvin Mims, because you have to think about what's happened for Tim Patrick this offseason. Tim Patrick coming off the torn ACL, he'll have to be fully recovered at this point. And if we are looking at everything that's going on in Denver, they decided not to trade Courtland Sutton. They decided not to trade Jerry Jeudy. They decided to draft Marvin Mims in the second round this season. So let's get this straight. Tim Patrick is possibly the wide receiver 4, coming off a torn ACL, and a passing offense that should be improved this next season, but was still very bad a year ago. So for Tim Patrick to have fewer than 575.5 receiving yards, a couple things can happen. One, Jeudy could dominate. That's a possibility. Two, Marvin Mims could be the wide receiver 3. That's a possibility. 3, Tim Patrick may not be 100% back from the torn ACL. That's a possibility. 4, Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos may not take the step up a lot of people are expecting with Sean Payton. That is a possibility. So in my mind, I mean, this is what we want to be doing. This is how we want to be thinking before the season starts. When we're looking at these player props and these guys are priced essentially that everything is going to go correct. I understand. I'll probably get a lot of hate for this video saying, oh yeah, no, Tim Patrick may not get to 600 receiving yards. It's just a game of probabilities, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, these players have a ton of upside. I'm drafting a lot of Lamar Jackson in fantasy because of his rushing upside, and I could 100% always be wrong, and everything could go right for these players, and that's what we draft for in fantasy. But player props, it's a different game. Now, of course, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you were able to get something from this. I really hope we were able to help you out in some way. And as always, if you want to get in a draft with me, if you want to check out any of these player props, both are on Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code FLOCK, and they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Plus, you'll get my 2023 fantasy football rankings and a free trial to flockfantasy.com. But I think that's it. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Really do appreciate you, and really hope you have a great day.